pause. We pause for a second or two. This is episode 101. Fish trap smartphone. In today's episode, we will talk about smartphones. And we will talk about smartphones in light of a metaphor that, to my knowing, has not been yet used. Since ancient times, all over our planet, people have independently of each other invented the same thing when fishing, and that is the design called a fish trap. A fish trap is a contraption where you create a cage, a cylindrical cage with only one opening. Only one opening large enough for the fish to pass through. And the opening is in the narrow end of the cylinder. And a fish can rather easily find its way inside of this fish trap. But it is very difficult for it to do the same thing in reverse. It cannot very easily escape. So it is trapped in the cage. This metaphor, this invention, is useful even when speaking about other human-made inventions. There is thunder in the background today. Humans do not only create fish traps for fish, but throughout history we have also designed fish traps, made use of the same design to trap people, to trap our peers. And today we will make the argument that one such modern fish trap aimed at our peers, aimed at people, is the smartphone. So in a fish trap, in a modern fish trap, you have a cylinder and you just have a quite frail net around it. And you cannot trap the fish with just a line. You need the net and the design of the construction to trap the fish. So each individual thread is not very strong, but designed in the right way, many threads can trap the target. And if we think for a while about the smartphone, the smartphone is an invention that is used for many different reasons. It is used in many different ways. And when you open a smartphone, there are a multitude of different applications, as they are called, apps. And each app is like a thread in the fish trap. A single app is not enough to trap people, but if you put together enough of these so-called problem-solving apps, then you can trap people. Then you can make people dependent on this device, the smartphone. Someone might disagree at this point and argue that the smartphone simply solves people's problems and that the dependency on a smartphone is a good one. So at this point we will look closer at why do we pick up the smartphone? When, in what kind of situation, do we most frequently pick up the smartphone? When we are bored, boredom is an emotional situation. We pick up the smartphone. And there are apps to deal with our boredom. When we feel sad and disappointed in life, there are so many little disappointments in life. There are so many annoyances, grievances in life. And every time we can pick up the smartphone, and there are different apps that are marketed, that they can alleviate our sense of disappointment, our sense of sadness. When we are in a tense situation, many of us pick up our smartphone and try to block the situation, holding up the smartphone, so as to hold up a shield between ourselves and the tense and potentially dangerous situation. So once again, we try to deal with an emotional situation by picking up the smartphone and activating some application on it. Many people pick up the smartphone when they have trouble sleeping, when they feel lonely, when they feel isolated. There are different social media apps, and now different forms of AIs are being released, and they are marketed such as that they can keep people company even in the middle of the night, that people are supposed to chat with an AI, chat with code that seems like a person but is not a person. Once again, we have emotions, an emotional situation in the middle of the night, and we deal with it by picking up our smartphone. When we feel confused, when we feel like we are at a loss, we do not know what to do, we pick up the smartphone and we go looking, we search, sometimes without a plan and sometimes with a plan. We search, we look. The answer must be somewhere, we think. So we look. Many hours we look for answers. And we try to help our confused feeling by scrolling and clicking. When thinking about our future, our long-term situation, we go to our smartphone. We visit different apps, websites, social media, and follow different influencers or famous people or politicians. And we contemplate our future together with the smartphone, via the smartphone, inside of the smartphone. And in these times, modern day democracy, our political system, is facilitated inside of different apps, different applications within our smartphones. So once again, our collective consciousness is facilitated inside of the world of smartphone. And if we put all these examples together, all these different emotional situations where we, in a casual way, little by little, piece by piece, we use the smartphone more and more for ever more areas, and find ourselves in a fish trap. And now we are dependent on the smartphone for so many different emotional reasons that we do not know how to swim out of the fish trap. We do not know how to put down the smartphone. We do not know how to live without being dependent on the smartphone. we live inside the smartphone. And when we live inside this fish trap, inside this smartphone, when we are fully dependent on it, or to a large extent, a great extent, dependent on it, then we do not have much autonomy anymore. Then we can be controlled to a great extent. And that is a terrible situation. That is a terrible feeling. And we will dedicate more episodes, more time to speaking about an alternative to this fish trap. So basically we will talk about pausing. Every example we talked about today are emotional examples, emotional situations, emotional problems that we want to find a way out of, or a way to live with. And we will look in other episodes at how once we find ourselves in such an emotional situation, we pause for a second or two. And then we utilize the different emotional skills so that we do not have to pick up the smartphone if we do not want to, so that we have greater autonomy, so that we are free to choose when we want to make ourselves dependent on the smartphone and when we do not want to, because it is not necessary to as high a degree as we oftentimes think. And every single time that we pause and use an emotional skill instead of outsourcing our competency to the smartphone, every time is a victory. Every time we reclaim a piece of our autonomy, a piece of our dignity. And every pause makes a difference. Every single one. So today's episode contained also thunder in the background for dramatic effect. And in other episodes we will address the same subject in a bit more casual way. That's it for today. Thank you.